What's going on? I am Vital, y'all mother, and I'm back with another tool for your toolkits. I have a very, very fun and exciting ritual for you all to get ready to do. The last time I gave you a ritual concerning money and wealth and creating this magic in your homes, I believe we were doing the treasure chest. And this one is even more powerful than any other home space for wealth building. For this, first of all, let me start with this. Back it up. Welcome. If you're watching this video, I'm letting you know right now that the ritual that I'm preparing my audience for is not for the scared beginner. This ritual is going to require courage. This ritual is going to require fierceness. This ritual is going to require complete confidence in your power. So if you're scared, if you're brand new, you cannot focus, this is not for you. But you can definitely tuck it into your toolkit for when you are. The only thing is, you're probably not gonna ever get this alignment ever again, because we are working with variants that are in the sky that aren't seen, haven't been seen for hundreds of years. We are working with the grand water trine, and unlike most, we are going to be working with opposition energy. And I guess I wasn't prepared to share that part, but I'm going to share that part. You know, you all, I'm listening and streaming. But we want to embrace opposition. And this is probably the most impactful point of us doing this ritual, is because we don't get the kind of changes that we desire. We don't tap into breaking generational curses, hexes, or anything with great impact without facing opposition and being all the way with it. There's no true power without opposition. So people often feel like the oppositions in their charts, astrologically speaking, are the areas where they call it like trouble. It's just harder. All right. But those particular oppositions are those crossroads, those angles that actually cause change to happen. Okay. So if you're ready, drop some blood and water in the chat and some money bags, because we are going to be utilizing those elements to bring to life. Bring to life, y'all. So y'all know it's serious. You're about to conceive. I'm getting all of y'all to conceive your very own spirit. So it's not your spirit, it's your spirit. It belongs to you. So if you're ready for that, you feel like you up for the challenge, drop some blood drops and some water in the chat. Come on, y'all. Light it up. And I need to see some money bags with that. It looks like they're doing a lot of what is it? Censoring already with this video. So y'all gonna have to thumbs this video up, because when it comes to doing rituals with blood, you know, they're gonna want to censor it in a way. So ritualistically, number one, let me just say for the algorithm, you're not using anyone else's blood, and you're not using we're not talking about animal sacrifice, although that's so on the internet nowadays. This is totally safe and sanitary for you and you alone. Okay? My disclaimer. Y'all know they get scary on these internet streets. I'm gonna open up the chat here because some of your messages are getting hidden. They're like, what the heck are they talking about over there? Censor, censor, censor. I hope they don't ban me. You know what I'm saying? They were like, where's she going with this? Thank you. Shouts out to all of my moderators. I'm getting notifications that my moderators are helping to show these hidden messages. Now, I will also say this. I have discovered that this whole situation, for right now, so I'm going to reveal, okay, with the image, the sounds, the interruptions or whatever, that it's not just the phone. I got a new phone. Image should be sharp, sound should be perfect. But do me a favor. Do me a favor. If at any time I glitch, or if at any time you can't hear me clearly, notify me in the chat. Okay? For those who know, you know. It gets really galactic, and you know, I'm a fighter for the people, so we're gonna go there. You already see in the media this war of the people wanting to have answers for things, and there being a real grasping at straws to keep information from getting out. All right, look, what's happening in the sky is happening here on earth. Okay, and we just roll with it, where we make the changes that are necessary for us to live the lives that we want to live. Yeah. Okay, so here's the fun part. You all just came off of the 1111 portal, and you worked with the black and white energies, right? You worked with the shadows, you worked with the polarities, and you magnified that with the mirror. So you created a vacuum. All right, when you put the polarities like this, right, you have this energy going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then you're placing a mirror there. You created this vacuum, right? So this takes you into another realm. And everybody who did this ritual had their own experience of being drawn into this particular portal, this particular realm. Now, what's important to note is that there's another combination that is very, very potent, and is going to give you access to what it means to be a god. Now, honestly, if you've ever given birth to children, you've participated to the highest degree that human beings understand biologically. However, when we're talking about being God, we are going beyond the need of another person. We are now moving into the realm of being able to completely give birth and conceive an entity solely by yourself. Press 1 in the chat, and everybody shouts out to the 1111 drop of that gem right on time. All right, light it up, y'all. Light it up. All the 1111, light it up. Now that you are tapping in to this field of consciousness, where the self sees self and recognizes self and wants to duplicate self, here you're going to take what you want to replicate in its perfection by choosing intentionally being you want to create. So rather than just an infinite expression of yourself as a whole, you now are going to take a particular particle of the self and give it life. Y'all think y'all ready for that? So this type of magic, where I call it blood and water is synonymous with fire and water. But ritualistically speaking, when we start working with the fire of life, blood, in our rituals, we are now pulling from our exact DNA, and we are giving consciousness to any inanimate, supposedly, right, object. We are now bringing it to life. The only thing here is that we're not just going to give conscious living life force to something that is cold and not moving, aka like a dagger or anything. You literally are going to be creating a being. I want you all to be ready when you do this. How many of you are familiar with binary code? Press 1 in the chat if you really understand just the basics of binary code. And it's okay if you don't, because I'm going to give you a very, very basic, fundamental knowledge of how it relates to life here on earth and how we communicate with all forms of consciousness. Okay? So as we know, for the most part, our computers, what you see on the screen, the programs, they are based off of a binary code. Okay, that is the foundation. Binary code means we are now working with ones and zeros. Okay. Thank you for letting me know, Jonah. But y'all can hear me. Alright. The message will get through. Power to the people. Binary code, these ones and zeros, are a reflection of the movement of electricity. Okay? Binary code, the ones and zeros, relate to whether a current is open or a current is closed. And by current, I'm speaking of electrical flow. You understand? So when we have an electrical flow, the presence of movement, that's translated as a 1. Okay? So write in your notebooks that when the electricity is flowing, when it's on, the number is 1. Got it? So now the opposite of that is when the flow of electricity the current, as we know it, is closed. Therefore, we have a 0. That's how it's represented in binary code. Now, each of these digits are considered bits. B-I-T-S, bits. Bits. What happens is, once 8 of these particular bits come together, it is considered a byte. B-Y-T-E. So for every 8 bits, you have a byte. Now, what is incredibly consistent is that in this reality, who can guess how many variations of this byte can you have? No. I see where you're going, but try 256. And write this down. When we learned to communicate with our other alien nations or alien forms through binary code, we had already documented that there were these 256 forms of entities, energetic patterns that would give us information. Because mind you, you have to have 8 bits to make a byte. And so it's through those patterns that we get a message. This is congruent and consistent in the messages received in divination systems like King, okay, which is a divination system that comes with 256 odus. These are entities. These are living messages. When you break these numbers down, you have messages that come through Dilogun, cowrie shells. Again, the mathematics continue to be consistent with these binary codings. So what we know as indigenous people is that when we start to communicate in these ones and zeros, as you may see in various systems, spiritual systems, okay, of indigenous people, okay, in the ATRs, in the other Amazonian practices, what you are going to see, okay? Yes, I like as well. 64 yoginis. Right. Now you're starting to see, okay? These numbers are not for naught. They did just come out of the sky, but the ones that received it were the people in tune with and in communication with our alien counterparts. At some point in time, those aliens, they intermingled, they mixed with other forms of us, and that gave a special grouping of people access to learning how to communicate. Now, what you're going to be doing, and you must understand, is that there is no ritual in real time that exists that gives birth to an entity without the presence of blood. Now, some of the problems that arise when we start getting into talking about creating entities utilizing blood as an offering is that you then have bound yourself to an entity that is already living and is giving you a service in exchange, but it already has its own will. It's already been created before, so you're not the originator of it. So it can become problematic if you don't know how to, let's say, control this entity. You don't know how to, you don't know the ins and outs of its motherboard. So what I'm sharing with you all in the Discord, I will give you the math behind those names that you all created for your money spirit. Okay? Because here you are, you're not only the oracle, you are the creator. And we're going to use creator, not God or goddess, not priest or priestess, not even sorcerer, because you're going now to the zone of Parashakti. You're going now to the zone of godhood, right? Without gender. To create your very own personal money spirit. And what's beautiful about this is that no one on this planet has the exact same DNA that you have to create your spirit, and in doing so, creating this spirit with the materials that I'm going to tell you to get, you have ultimate power over this entity. You see, what human beings have created is an understanding that there is something that was able to create a consciousness that lives through you. And although you can have your own thoughts, and although you can control your physical movements, there are just some things that are outside of your reach. And it's fascinating. To me, at least, it's one of my most favorite meditations to have. So from this place, We have gone as far as creating AI. But the real masters behind the AI are the computer geniuses who have understood how to manipulate this coding that can operate more like a sentient being. And the more that we give it information, the more data that we give to these particular programs, is the closer to being or operating as a free, independent consciousness. It begins to understand more about what it is that we really want, and it gets even better at getting and pulling the information that we want, the outcomes that we want, and it collects time and effort on our behalf. So how do you do that magically? The first thing was, I had you all meditate on and pull from within yourselves the name of your money spirit. By naming the spirit, you've already begun to breathe life into it. Okay? Similar to before you decide that you're going to have a child, you start thinking about it. You start pondering on possible names. You start pondering on whether it's going to be a boy or a girl. You start pondering on the things about you'd like the child to have, the things that you'd like the child to have from you, the things that you'd like the child to have from the other parent. And the more you start to contemplate these things, is the more that your actual cells are beginning to respond to that energy. So while people are in a state of bliss and joy and feeling secure and confident, you will see that manifest in the child that is born. Whereas if they're under certain stress and feeling insecure, been abused, they feel lots of trauma, you will see that manifest through the child. So in that same energy where you were in a pleasure zone, that full moon in Taurus, that pleasure zone, and you spent time, now that we are getting to the end of this waning moon, to release, let go, whatever is not helping you to tap into bliss, is not helping to inspire you, it's not musing, it's abusing. Quote me on that. If it ain't musing, it's abusing. And you're like, nah, we're not doing that. Okay? And so what I'm sharing with you, okay, I want y'all to figure out what I'm putting down. When I say what I'm sharing with you, this is not like something that people recognize that they're doing. One means I'm speaking, right? When we start to share, we go, firstly, we're opening up. The current is open. We speak in binary codes often, but don't recognize it. How do we say hush your mouth or shut up? Shut it. Closed. No current. One, you're speaking. Shut it. It's closed. Learning how to create and work with your own code is a beautiful gift. And when it comes to creating your own money spirit, because it is of your blood and your blood is of your flesh, this is a spirit that can be maintained and passed on to your children. Okay? Now remember what I said about this Mars opposition. Okay? You all, Pluto is about wealth. Venus is nice, but Pluto is about wealth. And so rather than you get into this energy where you're just kind of pushed into the opposition of who has power, who doesn't have power, when you're sitting there at your altars, you are a power that cannot be questioned because you are the God of your entity you're creating. And so you're channeling that extreme energy, that Mars, the blood, Pluto, this lifelong, this generational. So when we say generational, we mean at least 20 or plus years, 20 plus years of power, of wealth. Energy coming from the sky and putting it right into your altar. Okay? That's what we're doing. Now, when we have a grand water trine, where we see a triangle, we know that we have a womb is present. One of the planets that is going to give us that set it off energy, where it busts through all things logical and bring support to the innovation, the spontaneous innovation, is Uranus. So your supplies, I'm going to go more into this, but I want you to understand how important this is. Because leading up to Thursday night, okay, you're going to need to go through a purification ritual. So at least 24 hours before this rite, you're going to make sure that you're not having any sex. You're not going to spill your seed. You're going to make sure that you are clean and all of your sexual energy is maintained inside of you. Because you're about to give life. And you want to make sure that the life that you're giving is really clean and pure. Clean and pure means that it's only going to pick up on the subtleties of what's happening within you and your very clear intentions. Remember, I opened up and said that this ritual requires you to be courageous and completely confident. If you can maintain those two things this week, no matter what is going on around you, and keep yourself clean physically and sexually, creating this preparation for your first godlike operation, okay, then you're going to have amazing success. Amazing success. Y'all got it? So thankfully, I believe some of you have these, some materials already. We're going to be working in the 9s. Okay, so we have 3 red candles. These are your ritual supplies. 3 white candles. And then 3 of those trick candles that you can't blow out. They spark everywhere. Okay? Now you need a vessel to hold the spring water or the moon charged water. Okay? You're going to need some dissolvable rice paper. A food grade ink pen. You don't need a whole lot of alcohol. So get a very small pint of gin. The best quality. Okay? And you're going to get yourself a robust red wine. For your incense, you can use cinnamon. You can use myrrh. You can use cedar. All right? Now, I suggest that when it comes to your symbol for money, that you use the highest currency of money that you have access to. Whether that's $100 bill or a piece of gold, that should be present. Okay? You also are going to need the name of your money spirit. And I'll tell you what, even though you may have shared the name of your money spirit, at any time, you can choose to change the spelling before this rite. But whatever you do, that's it. Once you create the binary code, I'm going to give everyone in Discord the map. Because we're going to support each other in the Discord to enliven that energy. And moving forward, rather than referring to that money spirit by the name that you know it by, because the name that you're giving it is word of power, you will light up the chat by spelling out your entity's name in binary code. You cannot use your gold offering that you gave to Lakshmi. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I did mention earlier that there's a difference between an offering and an actual part of your alchemy in creating this entity. So let me sip on my moringa. The difference here is that when you give an offering to an entity, especially when it comes to blood, the entity can say, like, I want more. Okay? And if the person who's working with the entity is not well versed in this interaction, but has felt satisfied with what they've received so far, they may believe, oh, let me give more blood, let me give more blood, let me give more blood, until this entity has done something that ends up devouring the person over time. Okay? This is a real thing. What you are embarking on is giving life to a part of yourself that is directly related to wealth. Because their name came to you in the midst of focusing intently on what wealth would call itself if you were to take that part of yourself outside of you. Every one of us has an aspect of ourselves dedicated to money. Money is a very real part of this life on earth. Hence why we even have it mapped out on an astrological chart where your money houses are. So this is not some like, you just make something up, you're thinking about money. No. Like, this is a real part of yourself. Now, for some of you, you really need to do some work around healing this money entity, but it's going to be helpful for you to activate it with this much intention and the rituals that will come after. Okay? Because when you realize that you've activated this kind of entity that's rolling with you, you're going to be even more vigilant, if you're smart, about who has access to this entity and what environments are not good for this entity. Okay? Lupita asked, can we still do the name meditation now if we didn't before? Yes, you absolutely can. My advice and my suggestion is that when you are going to do this meditation, that you put yourself in a state of ecstasy. And I don't mean that that you need to be sexual. I mean that a state of ecstasy in reality is where you feel your creativity is at its highest, where you feel full of gratitude, where you feel very happy, where you feel very peaceful, where you feel like you're in a flow state. It's very different from a quick boost of bliss. It's something that you feel your entire being has awakened. So if that means you need to like take a shower and then put on some rhythm, like some drums, and and just dance around and free yourself of anything mentally that just holds you back from opening up to your own creative energy, then do that. The part of receiving the name of your money should not come in an energy of being too serious, taking yourself too serious, like you're just stiff. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be a wild, dynamic, big energy either, because some of you might tap into that bliss with a hot bath, some incense burning, and a yoga flow. And when your body gets loose and open, you start to really feel at peace. You start to feel really grateful for the smallest of things. That's when you go in and you ask yourself, what is the name of my money spirit? Got it? All right. So I look forward to seeing everyone's money names light up the chat in a bunch of ones and zeros. We'll be having our very own matrix wall popping off. Okay? And it'll be like just moving too quickly for you to even like, no one can steal your stuff. Because trust me, looking at the screen and try to ones and zeros and zeros and ones, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. It's lit. You know what I'm saying? And when you have that on your altar, mix it, you know, you're living well. It'll be fun. Trust and believe. It'll be fun. Alright. So, I'll catch up with y'all. Let me get some information to you all in a Discord so you can start practicing and memorizing the binary code of your name for your money spirit. And I'll see y'all soon. Peace, love, and bliss. Have fun with this later.